So without further ado, I just want to introduce our speakers today. So, passionate, advocate, and a believer. 3 words that define the essence of this beautiful being. She is a passionate human who has big dreams of changing the world and leaving behind a legacy. She also considers herself to be an advocate for issues that matter to her, but most importantly, advocate for kindness and making this world a better place and kinder place to live for all of us. She arrived in New Zealand with her family just 2 years ago and big dreams of calling this beautiful land home after living in limbo for 5 years as a refugee. Since being a believer is her strongest point, she utilizes her voice and privileges to bring the change that she is likely to see, as well as her passion about her change. Therefore, without further ado, please give a round of applause for Madiha. All right, and our next speaker, over the last few years, she's been on a journey of self-discovery to really own who she is. A typical people pleaser and perfectionist, she was never wasn't quite living 100% for herself, but after taking the time to really figure out what is important to her, she now understands what she values most and the things that are in forefront for her life. Her experiences with mental health struggles, which is used to keep her started to really flourish. No longer weighed down by the secret that she is too tarred with the brush of mental health struggles. She still faces, she's still very much on her way in terms of her journey of exploration and experimenting with different practices and triggered by others' experiences to see what resonates. Rachel is an open and vulnerable when she is in safe spaces and opening up her heart and sharing the good and the bad and the ugly. So without further ado, please give a round of applause for Rachel. All right, so how this will work, so I'll get them to just give us a little bit of a spiel, or at least share with, if you're happy to share your three I don't knows with us, you can start there, or otherwise, however you want to start it, ladies. Over to you.
I kind of thought about what I don't know, and it's really, really hard, but I did think about 2 things. I feel like the first thing is I don't know much about the New Zealand history, and I'm really keen to learn and be on that journey because I've been here for more than 2 years now, but I want to dig deep and learn about the New Zealand history because I aspire to call New Zealand home. And second, at the same time, I kind of realized today, because I wanted to do my Pepeha, but then I kind of realized that I don't know much about my mountains and my rivers and my own roots. So that's another discovery for me, to go down that journey and discover some of my roots and things about myself.
Kia ora, naka.
So, I similarly have been really wanting to learn more about our history here in Aotearoa. We taught a lot about history at school, well, I was in my day anyway, and want to learn more, so reading lots more on that. And also, I don't know what's next. I've spent the last 18 months becoming a mum. Which is something that I've just completely surrendered into and embraced, and I absolutely love it. But my bubba's a year old now, and I'm kind of feeling like maybe there's some movement in me for something that's going to be next. So yeah, I don't know what's next. Yeah, I only have 2 as well. Underachiever. Right. So are you going to start throwing some questions at us?
No, that's good. So it's a conversational piece, so I'm going to be just asking the questions, and they're going to give us the insights from their worldviews and their experiences as well. And then also, this is a conversational piece for everybody. So if Madiha or Rachel say something and you're like, okay, what was that word? Or what was that phrase? Just tell me more about that phrase. Stand into your leadership. So if you've got a question in your heart, stand into your leadership and show us all how you can actually lead with your thoughts. Your thoughts are a gift to us. Your questioning is a gift to us. Your querying is a gift to us. So please, this is an open invite for everybody as well. So the first question, are we ready? Give me some, like drum roll on the table, please. Go. How have you come to really How have you come to really understand yourself and your values? Battle fight.
Okay, I'll go first. This for me probably ties back a lot into the piece that I said at the start, and that's about just really being with myself. I've got a really good friend who I love having conversations with. She always pushes me, and I always feel like she's kind of like 4 or 5 years ahead of me, and then I'll catch up, and then she's on to the next thing. But she used to always say to me about how she could really feel what she was feeling. And I was like, what do you mean? How do you know how you're feeling what you're feeling? Like, what does that feel like? What do you experience? And it wasn't until I spent a lot of time on my own, in my own energy, just at home, pondering, thinking, reading, sitting, that I started to actually understand what she meant, and I was just able to tune into myself and know what was going on and have this instinctual knowledge of what I was feeling, and not questioning it or thinking that I needed to change it or fit into a certain box. And that for me was really important and really coming to understand myself and like and who I am and who I've become. Yeah, so I'm gonna probably throw it across to you. We might, yeah.
I feel like when I thought about that question, I couldn't really pinpoint to one particular thing as to how I come to really understand myself. And again, standing in my own truth and being vulnerable, sometimes I don't understand myself, and sometimes I don't know what my values are. And I feel like I'm on this journey, and I'm in this journey of exploration, and I'm still exploring, and I'm still learning. But I think what has helped me is that I've been a really observant child right from the beginning. I kind of observe myself, and I'm very, very observant of everyone in the room. But I think what has really put me in this spot is having an open mind. Really, really having an open mind, not just towards myself, but towards everyone else who is around me. And I feel like it's a myth to say that I've come to understand myself, because my dad always tells me that the day you stop learning is the day you die. So we're constantly learning. I feel like life is a journey, and we're on this journey together, all of us. And we're all on our journeys navigating it. And sometimes it's going to be high, sometimes it's going to be absolute low. But it's a journey that does not have a stop. Life is never going to be until we die. The day that we die is we die. But before we die, that's that whole process of exploring, navigating, understanding, constantly learning. And I feel like I'm constantly learning about myself, things about myself that I never thought existed in me, qualities, skills, strengths, weaknesses, and kind of giving myself the space to keep on exploring and keep on learning. Because I feel like if I stop learning and if I close my mind and be like, I've come to understand myself fully, that's the end of me. I will constantly learn about myself, because every other day is a whole new beginning. And every other day you meet other people, and those other people have influences on you, and they impact how you do things. And so we are living in this changing world where every day we're learning something new about ourselves, about our world, about people around us. So I do not understand myself all the time. I am learning to understand myself and my values, I guess. That's my answer.
Wow, okay. Vinaka. Rachel, I did hear you say in tune with myself. So imagine there was a time that you weren't in tune with yourself. How would you explain to her what in tune with myself looks like? Because I like, what are practical steps? Like, and I'm asking for myself and anyone else in the room. What are practical steps in terms of like, what does that actually mean? And is it like helly wishy-washy like stuff, or is it actually just staying still and whatever that is, you know? So I guess for you, what was your practice and what was your journey to staying being in tune with yourself?
So if I'm not in tune with myself, I feel friction. And that friction is that I feel like I should do something, but I'm kind of like, oh, do I really want to be doing that? Or feel like I'm trying to fit into a box for what other people expect. And it's not really true to me. So that's what I mean when I'm kind of not in tune with myself. And there's days, there's plenty of days now where I'm not in tune with myself. And then I'll reflect and then figure out what was going on, why I was acting the way that I was or feeling the way that I was, and then take that forward. And then that allows me to then hopefully catch myself earlier next time, so that I'm constantly getting a little bit better at staying in tune with myself. I'm never going to be perfect at it because that's just not possible. That's not realistic. But yeah, it's removing. Quite often for me, it's around societal expectations. So before I got pregnant, I was in a long-term relationship, which was not a good relationship. But I stayed in that relationship because I thought, as a woman, I need to be in a relationship, I need to be loyal to the person who I'm with, and I need to have a family. And I often had chats with some of the people in my close circle around, do I really want to have children? Or is it society saying, as a woman who's now reached, I suppose at that point in my view, just reached 30, that you should, if you haven't already, you should be thinking about having kids. And I really struggled with it. Is it me or is it society? Which way is it going? And I just couldn't figure it out. And then the relationship exploded, and I had to sit with myself and figure out what I wanted without someone else in my life who was influencing my decisions, influencing my thoughts, manipulating things, because that was happening. So as hard and at times scary as it was to be on my own, there was so many days that I just felt so lonely, and I just cried because I was just so lonely. I was like, why am I on my own? Why is this happening for me? What is going on in my life? But the next day comes and you try and have a good attitude and be positive and be grateful for the things that you've got. But I had to go through that hard stuff in order to really get to the gritty stuff of myself and start to learn, what is it that I want? What is it that is important to me? What is it that other people are imparting onto me? I love my parents dearly, but I'll never forget the day when my parents turned around to me and said, oh, well, we've just come to terms with the fact that we'll never be grandparents. And I turned around and said, oh, I didn't realise I was born with a tag on my head to give you grandchildren. And it came from a place of love, because they love us and wanted us to feel that love by having children ourselves. But my God, did it hurt. And so, just having those experiences sucked. But it got me to where I got to, and it got me to a point where I could say, actually, this is what I want. And there were still times, I remember before I had a child, I used to run workshops from home. And I was running a workshop with a really good friend of mine around self-love and acceptance, and we had to do this exercise where we had to draw what our life looked like kind of 5 to 10 years out. And I drew myself solitude in the ocean, floating, giving service to those people around me. And I thought, this is really great, I'm really at peace with this. And then I just had an absolute breakdown and went, you know what, this isn't what I want my life to be in 5 years' time. I want to have the partner and the babies. And it was like a turning point for me, where I suddenly went, you know what, I can't tell myself that I don't want those things. I need to be true to what I do want. And then I started to manifest it, and really tuned into those things, and prayed for them through manifestation. Does that answer your question?
100% and more. No way. Did you hear that? She dropped all of that knowledge. I don't know though. Beautiful. And Madiha, my questioning comes, I love that you also dived into the deep ocean of learning. And to me, your quote is already, I'm going to say, that's an Instagram quote, do you stop learning, you die. But my questioning is also around the fact that, because you're saying that your values always are also evolving and changing, does it change with new information, and how do you negotiate that conversation?
Well, I feel like in the first place, even myself, I'm not the person that I was 1 year ago. And I feel like when I look back at the kind of a child I was a really spoiled child. And for whatever reasons, and now that I compare myself to the person that I am today, I sometimes cannot relate to the child that I was. And I am a whole new different person at this point. And I feel like I'm not the person that I was a month ago. And every time that you meet new people, you kind of absorb new information, and that kind of changes your values. And I feel like values are not something that's going to be static, it's going to keep on changing. But values are something that are going to guide our lives and as to how we're going to live our lives. In terms of negotiating, I think it comes down to what matters. And you know deep down something that feels right. I think it's always the instinct, and your gut instinct telling you that this is right and this is wrong, this is where I feel comfortable and this is where I don't feel comfortable. And I don't mean comfortable in the sense of being in the comfort zone, but when you feel comfortable and when you feel like this is the right space, this is the safe space, you know it in your gut instinct. Whereas when you know that you're not in the right space and you're not feeling comfortable, then that is a signal for you that you need to step out. So kind of, I think at the end of the day, it all comes down as to what makes your heart at peace, what makes you feel content. And that's how you kind of negotiate what to keep in your life and what to take out of your life.
Correction, man, give them some clicks, come on. All right, question number 2. How do you stick to your personal boundaries, and when do you find this difficult?
You can pick this one up.
I'll kick this off because I struggle with this. And there are times when I cannot communicate my boundaries. There have been so many times where I have let other people cross the boundary, where I have not communicated the boundary in the first place, and I felt so uncomfortable throughout. I'll probably take this moment to confess something. Coming to New Zealand, coming with a really, really different set of values and culture and upbringing, and coming to New Zealand where things are practiced so differently, I constantly felt like I was an outsider, that I do not belong, that this is not a space for me to be in, and having the imposter syndrome that I'm not the right person. Constantly feeling that for a really long time, and it's not that I've mastered it. I'm still learning, and I'm getting better at it. But especially in the beginning, it was a big culture shock, it was a big identity crisis for me, where I had to go through this phase of who am I, and how can I stick to my values and my authentic self without feeling like I'm trying to be someone else, without feeling like I want to fit in. I don't want to fit in. I don't want to lose my authentic self just for people to accept me. The right people are going to accept me with the way that I am. And I don't think that anything else should matter except the heart. For human beings, the only thing that should matter and the only thing that matters is the heart of another human being. And if anyone is to accept me or not accept me, welcome me, not welcome me, it's for them to decide. I'm not going to change myself. I'm not going to give up on my values, on something that I grew up with. And I have done it. I'm really guilty of it. In our culture and from a religious perspective, in my culture, we do not hug men. We don't. Yeah, in New Zealand, I've hugged so many because I couldn't communicate it. Anyone who came up to me, I went along with it. And I felt so uncomfortable throughout the whole conversation. And I dreaded the time when it would be the time to say goodbye. Because I knew that a hug was coming, and I couldn't say no. Whereas that was completely against my boundary. And I think this is me communicating my boundary and sticking to my boundary tonight. And I'm still learning, and I want to keep on learning, because it's not easy. It's not easy to say that when the norm is something and your boundary is against it, for you to step up, it's really courageous for you to step up and say, sorry, but no. So I've not mastered it, I'm learning, and I feel like it takes a lot of courage, but what I would tell everyone tonight is that you need to take the first step. You need to take the first step, no matter how difficult it sounds, no matter how difficult it seems, you need to take the first step in order to be able to be your true self, to be your authentic self, to stick to your values. Because we don't want to live in a world where people are faking it. We want to be surrounded with people who are upholding their values, because that's when we are at our best.
Man, vinaka. Over to you,
I don't really know what I can add to that. What I would say is, from my experiences, upholding my boundaries is always the hardest when it's the people closest to me.
Wait, one more time for the people in the back, please. One more time, because this one hurt.
Yeah, like it is. The people who are closest to you are the ones who will just steamroll straight over those boundaries and not realise that they're doing it.
Aye.
It's something that I still struggle with now, because I'm a people pleaser and I want everyone to feel love and joy and happiness, and I don't want to bring them down by saying, actually, the way that you've just acted, or the way that you've just treated me, or the way that you've made me feel is not okay, and there's a boundary there. It's very difficult to do because we don't want to offend anyone, and we don't want to hurt the people that we love, but they've just hurt us in doing whatever it is that's just occurred. Yeah, so it is a really tricky one. For me, I don't tend to address it in the moment. I'm a processor, so I need time to sit, ponder, process. 5 days later I'll come back to you and I'll have that discussion. And that's just the way that I am, it's the way that I've always been. I accept it and I love it about myself. So I tend to address it later. I also find that for me that means that it doesn't feel as emotional, the emotion is kind of removed a little bit. Yeah, and it's just having those conversations and knowing that your feelings matter, and the way you can only control the way that you respond to things. You can't control the way that someone else responds to something. It's something, you know, you hear it, and that's one of those things that I've heard and it's really resonated with me, is that I can't control me. And if I'm sharing my truth with someone and they respond in a way that they respond in, that's they need to work through that. That's not for me to work through. So taking away that sense of ownership over the way that someone else feels to you saying your truth or sharing your truth. It's not easy though, at all. Yeah. Something that you continuously work on and try and get better at.
No, that's good. Thank you so much. Any questions from the crowd, from the room? All right, so we're gonna give you. So I'm wanting quick, sharp answers because of time.
Okay.
How do you define success for you?
I felt like for the longest of time, my definition of success was a very traditional one. My grades mattered a lot. The normal success that I think everyone kind of thinks it is success. However, I feel like I have been working on defining success for myself in a way, knowing I did my best, knowing I give my best, and then surrendering it. Because there are so many things in life that is completely out of our control. And success is very subjective. I think subjective in terms of we all define what success means for ourselves. And I feel like if anything, my journey taught me was that nothing in this life is permanent. And there's no point in holding on to things. So I know that I'm going to give my best to anything and everything that I say okay to. So if I've got any commitment, if I am taking on any responsibility, I know that I'm going to give my 100% to it, but then surrendering it, because the outcome might not be in my control. I practice it a lot with my grades, because I'm a uni student. I give my best to my uni assignments, and I try not to attach myself to the results of it, because I know I give my best, and there's nothing I can control with how the results turn out. And I think with everything in life, and I feel like the only thing for me, I kind of think about it, that the day that when I die, the only legacy that I want to leave behind is the impact that I left on people's lives. That's it, because I cannot take the material world with me. And the only thing that I'm going to leave behind is how I make people feel around me. And I think the day I achieve that, the day I know that even a couple of people felt loved and welcomed and heard around me, I think that would be successful.
And just continuing on from that, I think it comes back to like feelings for me. If I get to the end of the day and I feel like it's like there's been a lot of love and happiness and joy, then that for me is a successful day. You know, I grew up typical Kiwi kid, you know, you aim for the beach, the beach, the house, but you know, the boat, all of those things. And over the last 10 years probably, I've really challenged that internally. And again, those external expectations that are put on you, that these are the things that you need to do. But I am an achiever and I carry responsibility very heavily. And so those can sometimes become my Achilles heel and drag me back into those kind of traditional definitions of what success is. But then you just remind yourself and you know, get up the next day and I'm like, okay, today is going to be better. But yeah, success for me is how am I feeling and how are people that are around me feeling. And yeah, not the material stuff.
Beautiful. What does giving yourself permission look like?
This one really speaks to me. I needed to be given permission for a few different things in my life. As a kid growing up, this is something that has always really stuck out in my mind. As a kid growing up, my mum would always say, go on kids, go outside and make, you know, do something. You know, don't just sit around the house doing nothing. You need to go outside and do something. And we aren't made to do all the time. We're made to be. And that was like a light bulb moment for me when I figured that out and learnt that. And so I remember saying to my mum one day, I need you to give me permission to be. Because you didn't give me permission to be as a kid. And so there's this relationship going on here. And she totally got it because she had gotten older and could see what doing all the time does to someone. And she was like, I totally give you permission to just be. And that was like a moment for me. And since then, I can now give myself permission for things because that core one was kind of taken care of. So I just, if something is niggling at me, it's my life, you know, I can give myself permission to do whatever the bloody hell I want. And I don't have to answer to anyone, and I don't have to meet anyone else's expectations, and I don't have to, tick any boxes that anyone else has set, I suppose. So I think taking that control back has allowed me to give myself permission.
I think my answer is kind of similar in terms of giving permission to myself looks like giving myself the permission to be a human being. And I think as human beings we feel, as I said in my writing piece, we feel all sorts of emotions. And giving myself the permission to feel all of it, to be a human being, to make mistakes, to learn. A very nice concept that I learned from Seed, to fail and learn. Because I think, as I said earlier, life is a journey and we're going to fail, we're going to fall, we're going to hurt. And I feel like pain is something that's inevitable and you cannot escape from it. And that's what life is all about. We have all sorts of emotions and we're going to have struggles and challenges and sufferings, but at the same time we're going to have joy and happiness and so much love, and it's going to be a mix of it. And giving myself permission is feeling all of it and not running from it, surrendering to all sorts of emotions and letting myself feel it so I can let it go. Because if we don't feel it, we cannot let it go, and if we cannot let it go, then it destroys human beings. When we let go, then we can forgive, and we can be better human beings, and we can learn from it. But if we hold on to them, hold on to all sorts of emotions, then it's not healthy. Even holding on to happiness is not healthy. I'm happy today, I might not be happy tomorrow. Nothing is guaranteed. If anything I learned from my refugee journey is that one moment you have something, the next moment it's gone. And all our lives we think we run after so many things, thinking that when this point comes, I'm going to be happy. that it's a myth. I thought when I finally resettled to New Zealand, entitled to my rights again, I will be the happiest person in the world. Wrong. I still have my lows. Even the lowest in New Zealand. So the fact that I thought once I've achieved this, then I'm going to be happy is a myth. We're constantly running up to happiness and attaching ourselves to it. If we're happy, if happiness comes, I'm going to be happy. If not, and if I'm not feeling good, then I'm not feeling good. And I'm allowing myself to feel it as well. If I'm not having a good day, then I'm giving myself the permission to be in bed all day and do nothing. And that is absolutely fine. And not forcing ourselves constantly to be this person that the world expects us to be. But at the end of the day, we are all human beings who are flawed, and we make mistakes, and the idea of perfection is a myth. So giving myself permission is, I am this human being with my strengths and weaknesses, with my highs and my lows, with my peaks and my pits. But this is me. And I'm equally deserving of love, respect, and all kinds of, probably just love and respect, a lot of it. And it doesn't matter if I fail today, I'm going to rise again tomorrow.
Hey, come on. Let's go feel it, Felix. So both of you really gave me an understanding, and you mirrored to me that I need to feel it to heal it. So to me, I'm really thankful for that. And the last question, as we're trying to get close in person with you before you run us through an activity of a storytelling exercise, is what was the pivotal moment or experience where you started to really step into and embrace who you are?
So, as I mentioned before, I had a bad relationship that ended. Just to give a little bit of context, I spent 10 years with someone who lied that whole time. He had multiple relationships with children with multiple women, and when I found out, I felt like an absolute fool. How could I, a strong, independent woman, let someone take complete advantage of me and turn me into a fool? And I spoke to she's kind of like a colleague, client, but there was just this connection between us, and I told her what had happened, and she said, you know what, Rach, you did nothing wrong. All you did was give someone your love. And it's what they chose to do with it that turned it into this situation. And that was when I kind of went, actually, you know what? I am good how I am. I don't need to change myself. I give people the benefit of the doubt, and that's why he got away with it for as long as he did. There were red flags, of course there were. But I constantly gave him the benefit of the doubt again and again and again, because that's just who I am. And I gave him my love, I gave him my heart and soul. And when I had that conversation, it was like, you know what, all you did was give him the benefit of the doubt and give him your love. You did nothing wrong. And that for me allowed me to embrace what had happened, because there were so many learnings that came out of it, but also embrace the imperfection of that. So that for me, that for me was one of those pivotal moments that I will always look back on, and as horrid and hurtful and painful as that time was, I wouldn't be where I am now with an amazing partner and a beautiful baby and so much love, and the circle that surrounded me during that time and just picked me up and were like, we've got you, was such a huge lesson for me, that I've got these amazing people in my life. So that really allowed me to be like, you know what, I don't need all that crap, I don't need someone like that in my life. I'm okay on my own, and I don't need to change the way that I am. I can just keep going forward and learn and go from there. So
I think for me it wasn't a moment, it was an experience, and I think it started when I came to New Zealand. Because before coming to New Zealand, I lived among people who looked like me, dressed like me, spoke like me, were like me. even back in Indonesia, where I lived as a refugee for 5 years, there was this whole community, and my whole life was revolving around that community, and that community of people looked like me, spoke like me, we had this similar experience, we were in the same boat. I come to New Zealand, and I have this absolute shock of, who am I? I look so different to the people around me. I dress so different. I've got an accent, and I don't know the system. I don't know how things work here. I don't know who I am. And I think that was the experience. And I think I'm still on the journey of learning who I am actually, and kind of getting interested in my roots and where I am from, and actually taking pride in it. And not feeling like I need to change anything about my culture or my values just so I can fit into this culture. I can hold on to my values, hold on to my beliefs, but at the same time, respect and live together side by side with the people living here and residing here. I think that whole experience of exploration and being on this journey of where is my place in New Zealand, and the fact that I kind of have come to the conclusion that I'm always going to be asked this question of where are you from, and that will always make me feel like I'm not from New Zealand. But at the same time, I'm going to take pride in the fact that I am from Pakistan, and I'm a Hazara, that's my ethnicity. And I'm a Muslim woman, and I'm a daughter, and I'm so much more than what people see me as. And that is something that I absolutely take pride in, and I absolutely love my culture, because I feel like in all cultures there's the good part and the bad part, all cultures. And I'm taking the good part of my culture, and I'm taking pride in it, and I'm moving forward with it. And I'm not going to compromise my values just so I can fit into the society.
That's all.
I am me. And I feel proud of who I am, because it hasn't been an easy journey to get to where I am today. And I don't want to disappoint my parents, because they came with the hopes of better future for us to live, and for us to be alive and not live in fear constantly. And they took a big risk and risked our lives, and here we are today. Not for me to come and become someone I'm not. So this experience, I'm kind of really stepping into who I am, exploring what I really value about my culture, what my values are. And then stepping into with full force and holding space in spaces like this.
Thank you so much. Right, I'm inviting everybody to stand up. We've been sitting down for a while, so I want you to stand up. I want you to look, face your chest or wherever your heart is to these two. And I want you to just give them some hugs like this. Some hugs from the side, hugs on the side. It stretches well for you as well. It's a stretching exercise for you. But some side hugs, some uppity hugs, some lowly hugs. I just want you to give them, they went in the deep end. They shared their mama, their hurt, their struggle with us. And I just want you to know that you're feeling loved. All right, now go and smile at somebody else differently. Catch people's eyes, come on. People in the room, catch them. All right, now I want you to sit down. We're going to jump into our next exercise, okay? So over to you, ladies.
So, I feel like I can relax now. Uncovering your values. So this is something that I'm really passionate about. A friend and I co-created this exercise. So Kelsey's going to pop some papers onto everyone's tables. You'll need a pen and a piece of paper. So it's going to take roughly 15-20 minutes. So what what it's about is, on the bits of paper that Klaus is handing out, is just lists and lists and lists of different words that are values. What you need to do is go through the lists and make a note that resonate or stand out to you. You're not limited to a certain number, you just want to do any, like pull all of the ones out that resonate and write on a piece of paper. So I'll give you 7 or 8 minutes to do that, and then we'll come back and see feedback.
I'm going to write one.
We're all good here? Can I grab you guys' attention there? Sorry, I'm just disturbing you all. So if you haven't been able to group or theme your words, don't feel like you have missed it or you've done it wrong or anything. There's nothing like that. I was just saying to some of the people at the back of the room that sometimes you need to just sit on things and give it some time. So when I first did this exercise with a girlfriend of mine, I kind of grouped them into themes, and then I just reflected on them over the next week or two and to see if those groups or those themes kind of sat and resonated with me, and then I adjusted it. So the purpose of this exercise is to get you thinking and considering what your values are. And the reason for that is because your values will guide you, and if things are in tune with you, that means that your values are aligned with the decisions that you're making, the thoughts that you're having, and those sorts of things. So that's why it fits in with what we're doing tonight. If I'm doing things that aren't aligned with my values, I feel that friction that I was talking about before, and they will change potentially. They may not, and they may. Responsibility has always been a huge value for me, and when I see people who aren't taking responsibility for the shit that they do, it drives me nuts because it's such an important value for me, but that's me projecting my value onto other people, so I have to let that go and let them do their thing and know that that's just something that's really important for me. So that's another reason why we really wanted to bring this values exercise to you tonight, because it not only allows you to be aware of what your values are, so that you can try and align with them, but also it allows you to see how you're projecting them onto others, and you need to stop doing that basically, because it's your thing, and they've got their own values. So that's just, I think, something to be really aware of. Because we all do it, and I do it still, because we're humans and we're perfectly imperfect. So that's the values exercise. At the end, if you've got any questions or you feel like you haven't gotten to where you wanted to get to with it, just come and grab me. I'm more than happy to work through it with you. But as I say, don't feel like you need to get to a certain point with it tonight. Take your list away, look at it over the next few days, try and group it into some different themes, see how those kind of themes fit and resonate with you over the next few weeks, and then, it's an ongoing kind of working thing. It won't ever necessarily stay the same. So that's that exercise, and now I'm going to hand over.
So I just want to give a quick little context behind the reason or context for this exercise. So basically I'm a youth worker as well, and I work with some of my young people. And in my conversation with some of my young people, in one particular conversation, when I told them to imagine what would they want to be in an ideal world. So imagine it's an ideal world. There are no barriers, there are no inequities, nothing. Your ideal world. What would you want to be? Who would you want to be? And we had some great answers. And then in the same moment, we then shifted the conversation to, okay, now let's come to this world as it is right now. We've got the barriers in place, we've got the inequities in place, we've got the family pressure, the societal pressure, the pressure to be a certain way. Who would you want to be now? And I was fascinated by how their answers changed. And it kind of stuck with me, and it was a little reflection moment for myself as to why do we do that? So I thought I'll take you on a quick little journey where I want to encourage all of you to think about who would you want to be, who you are, how would you want to tell your story in an ideal world, your ideal world. My ideal world might be different than yours, but in your ideal world, what does your ideal world look like, sound like, seems like? And how would you want to tell your story in that ideal world? And in that ideal world, barriers do not exist, inequities do not exist. There's none of that family expectation, societal pressure. You are free to be who you are, absolutely yourself. How would you tell your story? And because we do not have a lot of time, we'll probably have 5 minutes for this, where it's completely up to you. You want to write, you want to draw, you want to think about it, however. And the purpose of this exercise is not for you to share it with anyone, it's more for your reflection. So I'll probably give 5 minutes where you think about how would you tell your story, or who would you want to be in an ideal world, in your ideal world.
Go.
Tina?
Yes, I did.
Madiha.
Yeah, I did.
Sakaroko.
So I think that kind of wraps up the exercise, and I'll probably leave the reflection for each individual to kind of go through. I probably assume that there will be really big differences in how you see yourself in an ideal world versus how you see yourself in the real world. And I'll leave a reflection for everyone to kind of think about what is holding you back to be your true potential self, what is holding you back to be your true authentic self, what is holding you back to show up to spaces and places and hold space as your authentic self and not compromise yourself for other people. So I'll leave the reflection for everyone to do it in their time, in their own space, because I feel like it's a really empowering thing to know that the power always lies in your hands, and you decide, you choose how you tell your story, you choose how you show up to places. And never underestimating the power of choice, because every choice, then every decision that we make, every choice that we make determines what kind of life do we live. And if we want to live our lives guided by our values, then it's for us to choose it every single day, even when the tides are against it. So I'll leave it on that note, I guess.
Thank you so much. All right, give some round of applause.
So kia ora, I haven't actually introduced myself, so kia ora, I'm Amy. I'm one of the MCs in training, so kia ora. So just to restart that off, just because there's been so many gems that you two have shared today, I just want to give like one big, like whoop whoop, big round of applause to these two again, please go. I just wanted to open the floor. If anyone had any burning questions, because we are coming to the wrap up of the night, so we just want to open up the floor. Anyone had any burning questions, anything that they wanted to call her back to our beautiful speakers here? I'll leave that for here.
Yep, I'll first go.
Yeah, can I reflect back, I guess, with your last question, what does you look like in the current world? What are you striving for, creating? Both of you, yeah?
Yes.
I feel like for me at this stage that I am in my life at the moment, I feel like I'm on a journey, on a very conscious journey of learning a lot about myself and learning a lot about the world. But I think what I do know for sure is that I've got a very big purpose, and the reason I've been sent to this world is for me to do something. And because of my journey and because of what I've gone through and been through, now that I'm on the other end, now that I've got a space to speak and I've got the privilege to speak and use my voice, it's my responsibility in a way to speak up, because there are still millions of people who are forcibly displaced. There are still millions of people who are on the other end, just like I was at one point. And it is very, very selfish of me to come at a stage and be like, I'm settled now, and my job is done. My job has just started. So I know that I've been sent to this world for a very bigger purpose, and I want to be on the journey of living a life that aligns with my value and my purpose. So that would be my answer.
I think for me it comes back to when I mentioned earlier that I had done an exercise where I'd drawn like my ideal life and drawn something and then realised that actually what I wanted was something else. That was probably a point for me where my reality and my desire, I suppose, were the furthest apart. And I feel like I've been able to bring those really close together, which I feel so blessed for. And now I'm at a point where it's kind of like, what's next? Like, I feel really settled and comfortable, and I don't necessarily feel a huge desire for a huge stretch, but I'm kind of just feeling I'm starting to feel a little bit of a niggle for kind of like what's coming, which I think I mentioned earlier. So yeah, for me, I'm probably going to start moving into a bit of a stage of potential new transition. Yeah, I don't know. So the unknown. Yeah.
Oh, Kilda.
Hi, thank you for sharing your stories with us today. And I just have two questions. So the first one, okay, my heart is like beating really. Bear with me. Thank you so much. So you shared that your parents have done a lot for you. So let's say now, for example, my parents have done so much for me, literally done everything in their life just so I could have a good life. Does it mean you owe something to them right now? And just because, and that way, and the follow-up question, because of this situation you're in, would you give up on your authenticity, or would you give up on the attachment that, hey, love me, I'll do anything you want, or I am me, accept me for who I am because I don't fit in your way, even though you've done so much for me?
Surface questions.
I feel like with my parents, one, we are we're generations apart, so they were brought up in a different generation. I was brought up in a different generation. They lived in a different country. I grew up in a different country and then spent my teen years in a different country, and then I'm in a different country now. So we have really different ways of looking at the world. And there are so many times when there is a conflict between how my parents view the world versus how I view the world. But I always choose to stick by my values at the end of the day, and our values, sometimes a lot of the values that they brought me up with definitely are going to align. But then there are values that, because they don't see the world as I see, and it's different. But does that mean that I give up on my values because it's my parents? My answer is no. I do not give up my values, because if I give up my values, then I'm not true to myself. But at the same time, there is that balance where I respect what my parents think and how they feel, and acknowledging it. Because I cannot expect my parents to come to New Zealand and have a whole worldview shift that they've held for decades. So it is really unfair for them to come to a different country, or even if they lived in the same country, they would have different worldviews and different ways of viewing the world. So it's unfair of me to think that it's easy for them to change their worldview so quick. It isn't. So for me, it's kind of finding the balance to say that I'm going to stick true to my values, yet at the same time, I'm going to acknowledge where they're coming from and understand where they're coming from. And it's okay for us to have different opinions, and it's okay for us to disagree. They can hold on to their values, I'm going to hold on to my values. Yeah, I think that's the best answer I can give.
I think you've actually answered that really well, and the only thing that I would add to it is, from my own experience, in the end, all my parents want and have ever wanted is for me to be happy. And how can I be happy if I'm not living what makes me happy, if I'm living to what someone else thinks will make me happy? And there has been, and it can create some real conflict. I mean, the whole grandparent discussion, that created real conflict, and it made me feel like I did take a step back and go, oh my gosh, have I failed my parents because, they potentially won't have grandchildren. I was entering my mid-30s, and then I went, well, hang on a minute, no, that's theirs. I'm learning this real thing, like that's over there, and this is here. So that comes back to the boundaries, and I think the respect part of what you said was really important. You can do it with kindness and respect. Yeah. And that's, I think, sometimes where we as human beings fall into trouble, is that emotion comes into it, and sometimes we aren't successful in doing it with respect, and
Just to share, I changed my entire language to how my parents would understand. But it also means that I have to not cry in front of my dad, because then he's like, oh, you're weak, or my protective instincts come out.
Yeah.
That oh my god, my kid's in trouble, how do I? And they can't communicate love. Their 5 love languages are all messed up. So is you can do this, this positive, toxic positivity. I totally understand. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. That was
Can I add something? I mean, I lived far away from my mother as well. My father is no more. He passed away 12 years ago, so my mother living alone. And in my darkness, I ask myself this question every single day. My mother's alone. I'm here. What's my responsibility? And one day I had a conversation with my mother, and we came to this point where the love is so unconditional that if you truly love someone, the hardest part is to let him go and go on a journey far, far away. And it's very painful, but sometimes you just have to accept it and you have to go on a journey that you're destined to go. I know it doesn't help, but
I feel like eventually they'll come around, whatever it is.
And if they don't, then just think about the change that you are creating in your life, and to show others, it will create shifts. It takes generations to create shifts, but by you being in your truth, you're helping to create a bit of a shift. Yeah.
And I feel like kind of always having one thing in mind is that, at least for myself, that my parents want the absolute best for me. And there's always the good intention with them. It's just that they see the world differently than I do. But it's fine. And we all see the world differently. I think in this world, each of us view the world very, very differently based on our experiences and based on what we've our experiences, then how we've experienced life, and it is fine. You and I cannot agree on every single thing, and it's completely fine. We can coexist. We can coexist in kindness and love by holding on to our values and our worldviews and our way of looking at the world.
Thank you.
All right, ear hugs, come on, ear hugs everybody. Just start doing it anywhere. Just throw it around.
Thank you. So what we just experienced just then is what we we call wānanga. So it's when we share our authentic selves, when we share kōrero, and when we actually get to be vulnerable in spaces that we might not necessarily be able to be vulnerable in. So beautiful to open up to ask these questions, because this is a perfect space to wānanga, to kōrero, because everyone will meet us there. I just wanted to really just mihi to both of you, so Madiha and Rachel, for the space you guys have created tonight, what you guys have shared. You both have amazing journeys and they're really powerful stories. And I just wanted to, I took some notes down, and this is some of the things that I've gotten from your guys' kōrero and for my own learning journey. So yeah, so what I got was from the very start you talked about wanderability, and there's so many ways I can take it, but being wanderable is courageous, and that's what Madiha shared at the very start. And it's so amazing because when you break it down, for myself it was to wonder, to question, but to look at things and wonder, but also to be vulnerable enough to, in your vulnerability, to wonder and to be open, so that you can get everything that's coming in. If we approach things with curiosity, with love and with openness, what can we return, or what can we get back? So that was beautiful. I don't know if that was necessarily what you intended to give, that's just how I interpreted it. When you said, how do we come to really understand ourselves? And you, Rachel, you were talking about, there was a time when you were talking to your friend and it always felt like she was 5 years ahead of you, but when you actually had time to stop and to really sink into yourself, and then that's when the messages came, that's when you got to wānanga with yourself and really understand yourself, and it was around letting go and dropping into it and feeling everything that's happening so that you were aligned or aligning. And I mihi to you, Yehoah, because you brought it up as well. It's how do we do that? Because when we say how do we drop into things, how do we feel our emotions, it's so hard to actually be feeling it. So those around actually stopping, reflecting, living, experiencing, where are we right now? That's the start of it. There was more, there's so much more. The day we stop learning is the day we die.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madiha, Dad. If it don't sit right, it ain't right. So questioning our society's conditioning so that we can find our authentic selves. Madiha, you also shared, I do my best, but I don't attach myself to the results. I want to leave behind how I make people feel, I want people to feel loved. And then just always challenging those external expectations. So what I took from your guys' kōrero was to love, learn, experience. You are not here today, or you are right here today, right here because you're meant to be here. Everything in your story has led you to this point. You'll never be the same person, but you are always changing, always growing, always becoming. And that's beautiful. You are both so much more than we will ever see or know. But I just wanted to thank you guys again for sharing this snippet of your guys' selves at this lesson time. So yeah, last round of applause. This is Slay, in case you guys haven't seen him. Kia ora, Slay. Oh, cool. Okay, so now we are going to be finishing that part. I'm going to keep talking. So, as you guys look around your tables, unless you have used them all already, which is fine, you will see post-it notes, okay? So everyone, I want you guys to grab a post-it note and a pen.
Last activity, let's go.
Okay, so I'm sure that we're ready. Some of you are looking at me. Some of you are wondering why you have post-it notes. Cool, so I'm going to ask a question. Oh wow, okay. So I want you to turn to the person next to you, okay? And I want you guys to have a 30-second conversation. what brought you here today? What in the universe aligned to make you be here? Was it you knew Madiha and Rachel? Or was it you just got in the car and okay, so on the next piece of paper, turn to the person on the other side of you, okay? And what you're going to talk about and also write down is what have you discovered and what are you learning? Okay. New question, look back to that first person who you were talking to and go over this one. What is your biggest challenge right now? Timothy.
30 seconds. No pressure, no pressure. What's your biggest challenge right now?
Okay, so right on to our last 30 seconds. I just wanted to give a heads up. If you know, so the first one was what brought you here. Can you please number it number 1 on that piece of paper? Number 2 was what have you discovered and what are you learning? Please number that number 2. Number 3 that you just done, what is your biggest challenge right now? So number 3. And write down number 4, which is where are you going and what do you need to get there? Half 5. And last 6 seconds, go. So I'm just going to read this off the paper, just so you guys know why you've just done this activity, okay? So, we would like to invite you to share your thoughts on the remarkable wall. These insights help guide seeds workshops to help you be the best they can be, aka yum, because yum. There are 4 questions to answer, so yes, please pick up your post-it notes when you have finished, and please can you stick them up on the floor, okay?
So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, not the other way, okay?
Yeah.
Just in case you've got other people in the room that think differently. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, please align them accordingly. Okay, so the last part of this, we will also be sending out post-event surveys through email. So please share your voice, your experience, and what you thought about tonight's session. It's really important because this is a way to call her back to our facilitators on what you thought, what you felt, and what you might have experienced, okay? So keep an eye out on those socials, on those emails, Facebook and Instagram, Waikato for your next dose of wellbeing and medicine, okay? So again, post-it notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Up on the room.
Come through. I thought you said it was a loud one. Okay. So coming back down to we're about to wrap the event for tonight. We also just want to plug in August workshop with Mo Mahara, so how to heal through your tupuna. So tupuna meaning your ancestors, how to heal through your tupuna. And we have this will be facilitated by Iona, our masters, as well as Joshua Ramika. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay, cool. He's over here and he's able to do a lot of good things, especially because look at him, just branded already, tutonu. Up in here, tutonu up in the hey, no shame in that, thank you so much. So he'll be here and so we'll be exploring questions like, have you ever wondered what your purpose is? Are you curious about what it means to be in tune with your intuition? What would it feel like to know you already have everything you need to get started? So I think that question right there, so I'm just going to repeat that question because we started off with exploring ignorance in terms of writing 3 things that you're like, I don't know about that. And I love the shares And I feel like this question caters to that. What would it feel like to know that you already have everything you need to get started? I'm still in disbelief because I'm like, but why? But it's the but for me, okay? But nothing, okay? So with that being said, I'm just going to invite Amy to close us. We start off with karakia. We're going to close us off with karakia.
You know what? I just really like that one. So can we please just give one more round of applause because I want that. Thank you for playing along with me, gosh. Okay, so again, I'm just going to wrap this up. So, Ino Tato, please close your eyes. If you want to look up, look down, and feel the wairua, okay? So, kua mutu a mātou mahi, mō tēnei wā, manaaki tia mai mātou katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, ai o ki te aorangi, sūku.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, also we just want to uplift this moment. So if you're a seed Waikato volunteer, please come to the front. Come on. You two. Come on, come to the front, come to the front. Come to the front.
So she's moving.
Come to the front. Yeah, well, if you're part of the team, you're a volunteer, you're part of the team, come to the front, please. You already know this moment is coming and it's been a long time coming. So this is going to be the last time we have a beautiful wahine with us at an event physically, and it doesn't mean that she won't be here again, but to me as one of the original planters of the seed, Waikato, aka the beauty that you see in us and the beauty of the space that is being held in here, Gemma, we just want to really, really uplift you at this point in time, and to also acknowledge the amount of space you've held for every single one of us, and encouraging us, shining the light on some of the things that we didn't see ourselves, and you gave us permission, because sometimes it is hard, because you can give yourself permission out here, but it's so good when somebody else also be like, you go there, you go there. This is something that you are called to do, and Gemma's been lighting that fire for me since the day one that I met her. And to me, I've been able to thrive as myself and completely as myself with the audience of people that I'm like, I've never seen y'all before. But at the same time, I feel this immense love and joy to know that I have the permission to share this heart. You know, this heart was nurtured by the soils of my motu, nurtured by the crying tears of my ancestors, and it's such a beautiful space that someone that doesn't actually know my family holds space for me. Someone doesn't know who I am holds space for me. Someone who doesn't know my traumas and my vulnerabilities holds space for me. And to me, that's something that I could never. There's a massive layer of gifts that I'm unfolding in that space. So for me, to you, thank you so much. And you already know, my sister, the amount of love that I have for you and being mirrored. You know, mirrored to me, the love that you have for me. But at the same time, I want to just give an opportunity just for one word or two words for everybody about Gemma. Just now, just a quick rundown. Not a big speech like me, sorry.
Hold our time. No, you know how much you mean to every single one of us on the team, Gem, and we are so incredibly proud of you and the steps that you are taking to live your authentic life like you have shown us all how to do. And we love you. Big love.
Thank you for teaching me how to hold my vision of my circumstances. Thank you for your courage. Courage. I see courage. I see love. I see it. Deep connection. Thank you.
I'm going to cry. I've actually known Gemma since I was about 18 and we worked in retail together. And the Gemma I know then versus the Gemma I know now is a completely different person. You've grown massively. And I think that's almost 10 years. So yeah, very proud of you and proud of what you've created for, I think, what was much needed for the youth in the Waikato. And not just youth, everyone. Having a space to come and connect with people we wouldn't normally is pretty cool. So thank you.
Kia ora, sis.
Thank you for your unwavering belief and support in me through my journey through Seed and outside of Seed. You're amazing and I love you to bits. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything, for believing in me since day one. Thank you for everything that you've done, and just thank you, very grateful to you.
Hi, beautiful. I just want to say I think seed is such a fitting word, because if you look at everyone standing here, you've planted a seed in every single one of us to stand in our truth and be who we are and be part of this team and carry on your legacy. So thank you.
Just thought I'd say, I'm sure there's meant to be like the ball.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. We can. Okay, cool.
Oh, that's tomorrow. So good plug-in. So everybody's invited to Creative Waikato tomorrow to really feel well. Gemma, this is literally like, I feel like just come prepared with tissues and a long line of just empty everything that you got in your ears, because you're probably going to get so many different answers. But yes, go back to you without stealing your shine, my sister.
I've only recently met Gemma, but honestly, since I've met you, it's been, I was like, she's cool. I want to know her. So I jumped on this kaupapa. You're leaving, but I just want to, what my word is, pretty much words. I broke it down. One word, broke it down. Alokitiha. What that means is a focus of one's breath. Together it means aroha, and it means the intention of like how you give your breath. It is with aroha, and it is with intention and kindness and love. And I'm still going to stalk you, like even when you leave, so.
Right, round of applause. Would you like to say something? You don't have to, but I'm like, hey, it would be a missed opportunity for us not to give you a space, especially after all the space, in terms of when I talk about space, I'm not talking about land. I feel like there's a massive body of water that you hold for us, and we're just like, yes. Just keep swimming. Some of us, but yes, would you like to say something? Otherwise, we can hold it for tomorrow, and everybody else is more than welcome to come.
Just thank you very much for sharing your heart. And thank you everyone in the room for making Seed what it is, because it's really about everyone here. And for being vulnerable enough to come into a group of strangers on a Wednesday night with no alcohol. About your feelings.
That's a really big thing for a lot of us. That's just like
that's a growth edge. So yeah, thank you for making Seed what it is, because it really is about all of you in the room. So yeah.
Yes, so if you love Seed so much, please know that these are two speakers from our community. You are a part of our community. If you have a heart to share something with a kaupapa attached to it, please reach out to Kelsey, because Kelsey is always here. She's our event coordinator, and we want to hear from our community. Although we'd love to hear all of these big powerhouse names, Brene Brown, all of these things, they're cool. But I'm like, we might have Brene Brown in the room right now. Okay? We might have the likes of the many inspirational conversationalists that started somewhere, and you might be able to start with a Seed, aka Seed Waikato. So for me, and from the people here, I'm also so impressed with the growth that I see in these people, and to me, there's something so beautifully, magically juicy about people who come to want to work on themselves. And then sharing that ambience, I'm like, oh my God, I love the smell. Madiha was like, don't hold on to happiness, and this me. Yeah, I'm not holding on. I'm like, thank you so much for this. All right, so everybody please come through for a group photo. Come through, come on. After all of that vulnerability and love, stretch it out. Bring your best.